The notification sound from Kira's laptop cut through the midnight silence like a blade through copper wire. I was hunched over our kitchen table, rewiring a junction box by lamplight. My version of therapy after another 12-hour shift running electrical for the new medical complex downtown. My hands, permanently stained with electrical tape residue and calloused from years of pulling wire through tight spaces, paused mid-twist on the wire nuts. "Oh my God, Sasha, you should see what Devin just sent me." Kira's voice drifted from the living room where she sat with her laptop, probably editing another one of her Instagram posts about authentic living or whatever brand was paying her this week. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I shouldn't have looked. Should have minded my own business and finished splicing these circuits. But the glow from her screen caught my eye, and there it was. A text message preview floating on her desktop. "That hotel room has your name on it. Can't wait to see you tomorrow." My wire strippers slipped, nearly taking skin with them. "He's so clueless. He'd never know if I left for a week," Kira continued, her voice carrying that particular tone she used when she thought I couldn't hear. I swear, Trent's like a piece of furniture at this point. Useful, but completely invisible. I set down my tools with the kind of careful precision you develop after getting shocked one too many times. 27 years old, and I'd already learned that electricity demands respect. Apparently, so should marriages. "Are you seriously going through with this?" came another voice through her laptop speakers. Sasha, her best friend and self-appointed life coach. "What if he finds out?" "Please. Trent's idea of detective work is finding the TV remote. Besides, it's not like we have anything real anymore. We're basically roommates who split the electric bill." The electric bill. The one I paid every month with money earned crawling through attics in 100-degree heat and running conduit through basements that smelled like decades of neglect. The bill for the house I'd rewired twice to accommodate her ring lights and photography equipment for her brand. "You know what you should do?" Sasha's voice turned conspiratorial. "Break up with him at your birthday dinner tomorrow, in front of everyone. Film it. The reaction video would go viral." Kira laughed, not her real laugh, but the performative one she used for her videos. "Oh my God, yes. Dumping my boring husband prank." The comments would be insane. "Think about it. You embarrass him publicly, get content, and then you're free to do whatever you want with Devin. It's perfect." I stood up slowly, my knees creaking from years of crawling through cramped spaces. Through the doorway, I could see Kira's reflection in the dark window, her face lit blue by the laptop screen, fingers already typing what I assumed was her response to Devin. My first thought, I'm ashamed to admit, was wondering if I could rewire her laptop charger to give her a nice little shock. Nothing dangerous, just enough to make her think twice about her life choices. But that would be wrong, probably illegal, definitely not the kind of man my father raised me to be. Instead, I gathered my tools, turned off the lamp, and headed upstairs to what had apparently become just my bedroom. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. The restaurant Kira chose for her birthday dinner was the kind of place that charged $30 for what they called deconstructed comfort food, basically mac and cheese arranged like modern art on a plate the size of a manhole cover. I wore my least wrinkled button-down and the tie she'd bought me last Christmas, the one that still had the price tag tucked behind the label. "You look nice," she said as we walked in, but her eyes were already scanning the room for her friends. I'd learned to recognize this version of Kira, the public one, where every gesture was calculated for maximum social media impact. The table was full of her usual crowd. Sasha, the PR consultant who treated every conversation like a brand strategy session. Madison, who called herself an influencer despite having fewer followers than my electrician's union local. Jessica, whose personality could be summed up as agrees with whoever's talking. And 3 other women whose names I'd never bothered learning because they rotated in and out of Kira's circle based on their usefulness to her image. "Trent," Sasha stood up with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for lottery winners. "So good to see you. How's the electrical stuff?" "Keeping the lights on," I said, taking my seat at the end of the table. I'd been placed strategically, I noticed, with perfect sightlines for whatever they had planned. The conversation flowed around me like water around a stone. Brand partnerships, follower engagement, some drama involving a beauty guru I'd never heard of. I ordered a beer and the closest thing to actual food I could find on the menu, while Kira ordered a salad she'd photographed from 6 different angles before taking 2 bites. "So, Kira," Madison said, her phone already positioned for what I now recognized as the setup, "how are things with you and Trent? You guys seem so settled." The word hung in the air like the smell of burning wire. "Actually," Kira said, and I saw her shoulders straighten the way they did when she was about to deliver a punchline. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. The table went quiet, except for the soft sound of phones being positioned for optimal recording angles. Trent, she turned to me with eyes bright with anticipated viral fame. I think we need to talk. About us. About how this isn't working anymore. I took a sip of my beer, studying her face. Behind the performance, I could see the real Kira, the one who'd practiced this speech, who'd probably rehearsed her expressions in the bathroom mirror. I mean, we're just so different, she continued, her voice getting louder for the benefit of the phones. You're content with your little electrical job and your little life, but I need more. I need someone who understands my ambitions, my dreams. Someone like Devin? I asked quietly. Her face flickered, just for a second, before the mask snapped back into place. This isn't about anyone else. This is about us, about how we've grown apart. Grown apart, I repeated. Is that what we're calling it? Don't make this harder than it has to be, she said, and I could see Sasha nodding encouragement from across the table. Let's break up, Trent. I'm done. The whole restaurant seemed to pause. I could feel eyes from other tables, could practically hear the collective intake of breath from her friends as they waited for me to beg, to cry, to provide the kind of dramatic content that would get them thousands of views. Instead, I reached for my wallet. All right, I said, pulling out $40 and placing it on the table. That should cover my beer and the appetizer. I stood up, straightened my tie, and looked down at Kira's suddenly uncertain face. Happy birthday, I said. I hope you get everything you deserve. The silence followed me all the way to the parking lot. Heartbreak is supposed to feel like getting hit by a truck, I told Eli 3 days later as we sat in Murphy's Tavern, the kind of bar where electricians and cops went to forget their day. Turns out it's more like acid. Slow, but everything dissolves. Eli Martinez had been my best friend since trade school, back when we both thought we'd spend our lives pulling wire and talking about baseball. Now he ran a private security consulting business, which was a fancy way of saying he installed cameras and investigated cheating spouses for lawyers, who paid better than the police department ever did. You're handling this better than most guys would, he said, nursing his second whiskey. Most guys would have made a scene. Most guys don't have access to their wife's cloud backup, I said, sliding my phone across the table. Eli's eyebrows went up as he scrolled through the screenshots I'd taken. Months of messages between Kira and Devin, starting innocent enough but escalating into explicit photos and detailed plans for their hotel meetings. Worse were the messages between Kira and her friends, dissecting our marriage like a failed business venture. Trent's like a golden retriever, Eli read aloud. Loyal and useful, but not exactly exciting. Jesus, man. Keep reading. I feel bad sometimes, but he's so predictable. He'll never leave me. Where would he go? And he pays for everything while I build my brand. Holy shit, Kira? That's cold even for... Wait, what's this? He'd found the message thread I'd been dreading to read myself. Kira and Sasha planning the restaurant humiliation in detail. Make sure everyone's recording. We need multiple angles. If this goes viral, you could get a reality show deal out of the sympathy. Eli looked up at me. They planned the whole thing? Every word, I said, down to where I should sit for optimal lighting. And this Devin guy? Brand manager for some energy drink company. Lives in a downtown loft his daddy pays for, drives a BMW he can't actually afford, the kind of guy who uses entrepreneur in his Instagram bio. Eli handed my phone back. So what's the plan? Please tell me you're not going to do anything stupid. Define stupid. Anything that involves me bailing you out of jail. I smiled for the first time in days. Nothing illegal, nothing violent, just educational. I don't like that look. You know what I learned in 27 years of electrical work? I asked. Every system has a weak point. Every circuit has a place where, if you know what you're doing, you can make the whole thing come apart. And you know what you're doing? Eli, I've been mapping their system for 3 days. Devin's got a girlfriend he's been cheating on with my wife. Sasha's been embezzling from her PR firm to fund her lifestyle. Madison's influencer income is actually money from her grandmother's trust fund, which she's supposed to be using for college. Jessica's been sleeping with her married boss. How the hell did you find all that out? Amazing what people put in their cloud storage when they think nobody's looking. Amazing what they say in group chats when they think they're among friends. I finished my beer. They wanted to embarrass me publicly? Fine. Let's see how they like it. Trent, Eli said carefully, revenge is a dish best served cold, but it's also a dish that can poison the cook. Don't worry, I said, standing up. I'm not going to do anything they haven't already done to each other. I'm just going to help their secrets find the light. As I walked to my truck, my phone buzzed with a text from Kira. Can we talk? I think you misunderstood what happened at dinner. I deleted it without responding. Some circuits, once they're broken, aren't worth repairing. The first domino fell on a Tuesday. I was running conduit at a job site when my phone started buzzing with notifications. Apparently, Devin's girlfriend, Rebecca, had received an anonymous email containing screenshots of his messages with Kira, complete with timestamps and hotel receipts. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. "What the hell did you do?" The text from Kira came in all caps, followed by a string of angry emojis. I was about to respond when Eli called. "Turn on channel 7, he said. "You're going to want to see this." I found a TV in the site trailer just in time to catch the tail end of a news segment about a social media influencer scandal. Apparently, Rebecca worked for the same marketing firm that handled several local businesses, and she'd decided to make Devin's cheating very, very public. The screenshots were now plastered across billboards downtown, paid for by what the reporter called an anonymous concerned citizen. My phone rang. "Kira." "You snake," she said without preamble. "You ruined everything." "I didn't ruin anything," I said, watching a billboard featuring Devin's shirtless selfie and the message, "Looking for a sugar mama, not a real woman." Scroll past on the newsfeed. I just made sure the right person got the right information. "Rebecca is psychotic. She's trying to destroy Devin's career." Devin destroyed his own career when he decided to cheat on his girlfriend with a married woman. I just connected the dots. This is about revenge, isn't it? You can't stand that I found someone better than you. Better? I laughed, and it felt good. "Kira, the man lives off his ex-girlfriend's credit cards and hasn't had a real job in 2 years. If that's better, then I'm worried about your definition of success. At least he has ambition? At least he understands what I'm trying to build. What you're trying to build is a house of cards, and houses of cards fall down." She hung up. 5 minutes later, Sasha called. "Trent, we need to talk." "Do we? This has gone too far. Kira's devastated. Can't you just what? Pretend my wife didn't cheat on me? Pretend you all didn't plan to humiliate me for internet points? It was just a prank. Nobody was supposed to get hurt." "Funny thing about pranks," I said. "They're only funny if everyone's laughing." I hung up and went back to work. But the day was far from over. At lunch, Eli texted me a link to Madison's Instagram story. She was crying. Actual tears, not the fake ones she usually posted for sympathy engagement. Apparently, someone had sent her grandmother screenshots of Madison's posts about her successful influencer lifestyle, along with receipts showing how she'd been spending her college fund on designer clothes and restaurant meals. "The trust fund's been frozen," Eli texted. "Grandma's not happy." By evening, the dominoes were falling faster than I could count them. Jessica's boss's wife had received some interesting photos. Sasha's firm had gotten an anonymous tip about some creative accounting. And Devin? Well, Devin was having a very bad day. I was in my truck, heading home from work, when I saw him, pulled over on the side of Highway 9, standing next to his precious BMW with the hood up. Steam was pouring out, and even from 50 yards away, I could see the frustration on his face. I almost drove past. Should have driven past. But then I remembered Kira's voice on that laptop. "He's so clueless. He'd never know if I left for a week." I pulled over. "Oh, car trouble?" I called out, grabbing my toolbox from the truck bed. Devin looked up, and I watched his face cycle through confusion, recognition, and panic. "Trent," he said. Look, man, I can explain." "Explain what?" I asked, popping the hood and peering inside. "Oh, I see the problem. Your radiator hose came loose. Happens sometimes with these German cars. They're not built for real work." I reached into the engine compartment, ostensibly to check the hose, but my elbow caught the edge of my toolbox. It tipped over, spilling wrenches and screwdrivers across the BMW's pristine paint job. The sound was like hail on a tin roof. "Oops," I said. "Sorry about that. These old toolboxes, you know? Not as reliable as they used to be." Devin stared at the scratches across his hood, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. "Tell you what," I said, gathering my tools. "I'll call you a tow truck. Wouldn't want you to be late for any important meetings." As I walked back to my truck, I could hear him behind me, frantically trying to start the car. The engine turned over but immediately overheated again, steam pouring out like a dragon's breath. "Oh, and Devin?" I called back. "Next time you want to steal someone's wife, maybe pick one who's actually worth stealing." I drove away to the sound of his car alarm, which seemed to be stuck in the on position. Funny how these electrical systems can be so unreliable. The war room was my garage, and the battle plans were spread across my workbench like electrical schematics. 3 weeks had passed since the restaurant incident, and Kira's world was systematically falling apart. She'd moved in with Sasha temporarily, since Devin was dealing with his own problems. Apparently, Rebecca's revenge campaign had expanded to include his landlord, his gym membership, and every social media platform he'd ever used. "You're enjoying this too much," Eli said, studying the printouts I'd organized by person and priority. "It's starting to worry me." "I'm enjoying the precision," I corrected him. "It's like wiring a complex circuit. Every connection has to be perfect, or the whole system fails." "And what's the end game here? Because right now you're winning, but Kira's friends are starting to figure out it's not all coincidence." He was right. Madison had posted a tearful video about targeted harassment by toxic men. Jessica had hired a lawyer to investigate the leak of her affair. And Sasha? Sasha was getting desperate. "She called me yesterday," I told Eli. "Wants to meet. Says she has information I need to hear." "That sounds like a trap." "Everything's a trap. The question is who's setting it." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Parking lot behind Murphy's. 1 hour. Come alone. S." "Speak of the devil," I said, showing Eli the message. "You're not actually going." "Of course I am, but not alone." An hour later, I sat in my truck in Murphy's back parking lot while Eli watched from his car across the street. Sasha's white Mercedes pulled up exactly on time. She'd always been punctual, I'd give her that. She got out wearing what I'd learned to recognize as her serious business outfit. Black suit, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back. This was Sasha in full PR mode, ready to negotiate. "Trent," she said, sliding into my passenger seat without invitation. "We need to end this." "End what?" "Don't play dumb. I know you're behind everything that's been happening, the leaked messages, the financial investigations, all of it." "That's a serious accusation. You have any proof?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I don't need proof. I know you, remember? I've been watching you for years, sitting in the background while Kira and I planned her future. You think you're so smart, but you're just a small-town electrician with delusions of grandeur. And you're a small-town PR consultant with embezzlement charges hanging over your head. We all have our problems." Her composure cracked slightly. "Those charges won't stick, my lawyer says." "Your lawyer says a lot of things. But bank records don't lie, and neither do the screenshots your former clients received of you bragging about overcharging them." "You snake. Now we're getting somewhere. What do you want, Sasha?" She reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. "I want you to back off. Stop the harassment, stop the leaks, stop whatever sick game you're playing. And in return?" "In return, I don't give these to Channel 7. She slid a photograph across the seat. It showed me in the parking lot with Devin, my toolbox clearly visible next to his damaged BMW. "Vandalism," she said. "Property damage." "Property. I bet there are security cameras that caught the whole thing." I studied the photo, noting the angle, the lighting, the timestamp. "This is good work. Professional quality. You hire a private investigator? Does it matter?" "It matters because a PI would have told you to check if there were actually any security cameras in that area before you tried to blackmail someone." I handed the photo back. "There aren't, by the way. That stretch of highway is a silent zone." Her confidence wavered. "There are other photos, other evidence." "I'm sure there are. But here's the thing about evidence, Sasha. It has to prove something that actually happened. And what happened is that I stopped to help a stranded motorist and accidentally dropped my toolbox. Clumsy of me, but not criminal. No one will believe that. They don't have to believe it. They just have to prove otherwise." I leaned back in my seat. "But let's say, hypothetically, that you're right. Let's say I have been systematically exposing the lies and betrayals of people who tried to humiliate me. What exactly are you going to do about it?" "I'm going to destroy you." "With what? The affair you orchestrated, the embezzlement you committed, the fraud charges you're facing?" I shook my head. "Sasha, you're fighting a war with weapons made of paper." She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her recalculating, trying to find a new angle of attack. "Kira still loves you," she said finally. "She made a mistake, but she wants to work things out. If you stop this crusade, she'll come back." "That's the thing, Sasha. I don't want her back." "What?" I said I don't want her back. The woman I married wouldn't have cheated, wouldn't have planned to humiliate me for social media content, wouldn't have called me furniture. I opened the truck door. "The woman I married never existed. You made sure of that." "What do you mean?" But I was already getting out. "Thanks for the photos, though. I'm sure my lawyer will find them interesting when we discuss your harassment campaign." As I walked away, I heard her calling after me, her voice finally losing its professional composure. But I didn't turn around. Some circuits, once they short out, can't be repaired. They can only be replaced. And I was done with faulty wiring. The Crane Ridge Civic Center was buzzing with the kind of energy that only came with small-town scandal and free wine. The annual Rising Stars Gala was supposed to celebrate local entrepreneurs and community leaders, and somehow, through what I suspected was a combination of bribery and social media manipulation, Kira had been nominated for the Digital Innovation Award. I hadn't planned to attend. Had no reason to be there, really, except that Eli had called me that morning with interesting news. "Your wife's acceptance speech is going to be legendary," he said, assuming she still gives it after what happened last night. What happened last night? Devin got arrested. DUI, resisting arrest, and apparently he had some very interesting things in his car. Things that suggest he's been dealing more than energy drinks. I sat up straighter. I didn't have anything to do with that. I know you didn't, but Rebecca did. Turns out she's been building a case against him for months, and last night she finally had enough evidence to make some calls. So it's over. For Devin, yeah. But Sasha's been calling in favors all week, trying to salvage Kira's reputation. Word is they're planning some kind of big reveal tonight. A comeback story about overcoming adversity and toxic relationships. Toxic relationships? You're the toxic relationship, buddy. You're about to become the villain in Kira's redemption arc. I looked at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. 5 o'clock shadow, work clothes, hands that would never be completely clean no matter how much I scrubbed them. Then I looked at the suit hanging on the back of my door, the one I'd worn to our wedding. "Eli," I said, "how do you feel about crashing a party?" 2 hours later, I stood in the back of the Civic Center's main ballroom, watching Crane Ridge's elite pretend to care about community service while they networked and gossiped. The stage was set with a podium and a large screen for presentations, and I could see the AV booth tucked discreetly in the corner. Kira sat at a table near the front, surrounded by what remained of her friend group. She looked beautiful. She always had, but there was something brittle about her now, like glass under pressure. Sasha sat beside her, playing the role of supportive best friend while constantly checking her phone. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC announced, "our final award of the evening goes to someone who embodies the spirit of digital innovation and community engagement. Despite recent personal challenges, she's continued to inspire others through her authentic online presence and commitment to local businesses. Please welcome this year's Digital Innovation Award winner, Kira Mallory." The applause was polite but not enthusiastic. I noticed several people checking their phones instead of clapping, probably looking up the recent scandals. Kira walked to the podium with her camera-ready smile, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. She'd practiced this speech, probably for weeks. "Thank you so much for this incredible honor," she began. "This past year has been a journey of growth and self-discovery. I've learned that sometimes we have to leave toxic situations behind to become who we're meant to be." She was looking directly at me now, though I doubted she could see me in the darkened back of the room. "I've learned that some people will try to tear you down when you're building something beautiful. They'll use your trust against you, weaponize your vulnerabilities, and try to destroy everything you've worked for." The room was getting uncomfortable. This wasn't the inspirational speech they'd expected. But I've also learned that the truth has a way of coming out. And the truth is that I'm stronger now than I've ever been. I'm free from the small-minded people who couldn't see my potential, who wanted to keep me trapped in their limited vision of what my life should be. I started walking toward the stage. I'm here tonight not just to accept this award, but to announce my new venture, a consulting business helping other women escape toxic relationships and build their authentic selves. She was hitting her stride now, feeding off the energy of her remaining supporters. But then she saw me approaching the stage, and her rhythm faltered. "I want to thank my friend Sasha for her support during this difficult time, and I want to thank all of you for believing in second chances and the power of—" "Excuse me," I said, stepping up to the podium. "Mind if I add something?" The room went silent. Kira stared at me like I was a ghost, which I suppose I was, the ghost of the man she'd tried to bury. "Trent," she whispered, "what are you doing here?" "Supporting my wife," I said, taking the microphone. Or should I say, my soon-to-be ex-wife. She's right about truth having a way of coming out. I gestured to the AV booth, where Eli gave me a thumbs up. The large screen behind me flickered to life. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to share some of that truth with you tonight." The first image was a screenshot of Kira's group chat, the one where she called me furniture and discussed her affair with Devin. The text was large enough for everyone in the room to read clearly. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Kira grabbed for the microphone, but I held it away from her. "This is from about 6 months ago," I continued as the next screenshot appeared. "Here's where they plan to humiliate me at her birthday dinner. Notice the part about filming it for social media content." "Stop this," Sasha hissed from her table, but she wasn't moving. probably because she knew what was coming next. And here, I said as the screen changed again, is where her best friend Sasha, the same Sasha who's been managing this comeback campaign, admits to embezzling from her clients to fund her lifestyle. Amazing what people put in writing when they think nobody's watching. The room erupted. People were standing, pointing, taking pictures of the screen with their phones. I could see Channel 7's reporter frantically taking notes in the corner. "Trent, please." Kira was crying now, real tears this time. "You're destroying everything." "I'm not destroying anything," I said, handing her back the microphone. "I'm just making sure everyone gets to see the same authentic version of you that I did." I walked off the stage and headed for the exit, but Kira's voice stopped me. "You think you've won?" she screamed into the microphone. "You think ruining my life makes you some kind of hero? You're still the same pathetic loser you always were." I turned back to face her, this woman I'd loved for 5 years, this stranger who'd worn my wife's face while planning my humiliation. "You're right," I said, loud enough for the room to hear. "I am the same guy I always was. I pay my bills, I do honest work, and I keep my promises. If that makes me a loser in your book, then I'm proud to lose." I started walking again, but then I remembered something. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a small box. "Oh, and Kira," I called back. "Happy birthday." I tossed the box onto the stage. It landed at her feet and popped open, revealing a DNA test kit. "Try it on your friends," I said. At least one of them might turn out to be loyal." The last thing I heard as I walked out into the night was the sound of 300 people talking at once, their voices mixing into a symphony of shock and scandal that would keep Crane Ridge buzzing for months. Outside, Eli was waiting by my truck, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. "That," he said, "was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." "It's over," I said, and for the first time in months I felt like I could breathe again. So what now? I looked back at the Civic Center, where people were still streaming out, their phones glowing as they shared the night's events with the world. In a few hours, Kira's authentic life would be trending on social media for all the wrong reasons. "Now I go home," I said. "I've got some rewiring to do." As we drove away, I could see the city lights flickering in my rearview mirror, each one connected to the others by miles of wire running through walls and underground, invisible but essential. Most people never thought about the electrical grid that powered their lives, never considered the careful planning and precise connections that kept everything running smoothly. But when the system failed, when the connections came loose or the circuits overloaded, everyone noticed. Everyone remembered, suddenly, how much they depended on the infrastructure they'd taken for granted. I'd spent my whole adult life keeping the lights on for other people. Now, finally, it was time to illuminate my own path.